to the anniversary show of Cliterary Salon. We are 1 year old. Who was here for the first show? Who's here for the first show? Oh wow, okay. All right, and we got a lot of newbies. Welcome, welcome. So first I would like to thank the Rick for having us. I would like to thank all of our bartenders. Please tip them, it's not a hobby. And we are online, if you are online. We're on Twitter at Cliterary Salon, yes, and we are on Facebook at Cliterary Salon C, because we can't have Zuckerberg finding us. So, there's also cliterarysalon.com, and we have our next show coming up April 26th at 7 p.m. at the Bindery. So we hope to see you for that too. Tickets are available now, so, you know, do your thing. I would like to welcome all of you. We've got a great show tonight, and shall we jump into our first reader? Meg Elison. Correct. Is the author of the book of The Unnamed Midwife and winner of the Philip K. Dick Award. Most recently, she won the James A. Tiptree Honor for her short story Big Girl, which she read on this show and which is on our YouTube channel. And she's a co-producer of Cliterary Salon and runs the Parallel Lit series in Oakland. And you can buy her books at our merch table right over here. So, give it up for Meg Elison.
Thank you, Lauren, for selling me super hard. I've got a short story for you tonight, and it's called The Portal. It only happens at 3 a.m. And I mean 3 a.m. on the dot, at the second when the satellite synced clock on my phone switches from 0259 to 0300. I should know because I've timed it on over 40 occasions. I didn't time it the first couple that I saw. The first time that the portal erupted on aisle 4, Pringles on the right, motor oil on the left. I was too shocked to do anything. I just stared at it, thinking maybe it was inside my head. Maybe I was having a stroke. Maybe I was so sleep deprived that I was seeing things. The rim of it was so bright, it was like when something grinds against your eyelid and you see little firework explosions on your eyeball in the dark. The second and third time, I got a little closer. After that, I started to try to figure out what it is. Yeah, I know what you're going to ask. Look, I tried to take pictures. I tried to get video, I tried with my phone, I tried with a dust-covered disposable camera from the bottom shelf of aisle 2, condoms on the right, Mars bars on the left. Both times the frame was completely white. It looked like I had jammed my camera up against the side of a light bulb. And I had to get that film developed myself. Do you know how many places there are in this town to develop film? 1. That's all. Anyway, it happened every night at 3 a.m. for 4 months. That's how long I've been working here. I don't work every night, just the 4 nights a week when I don't have class. But I'm sure it still happens when I'm not here, because otherwise it's specifically about me. And I can't even think about that. I can't look directly at my grades when they come in, or read texts from someone who I think is mad at me. I hold them both at arm's length and tilt them away from my face while I whisper, not me, not me, not me, not me, not me, not me. So I really can't deal with being stalked by an interdimensional occurrence, okay? I don't know that it is interdimensional, I guess. That's projection on my part. Portals on Star Trek, ST Discovery themed cups available at the icing machine. Try the lemonade flavor. I usually have one of those mixed with a plastic flask of vodka from right here behind the counter before my shift ends at dawn, so I can pass the fuck out without thinking too hard about existence. Oh, there's no security cameras. I know that looks like a camera, but it's just a box with a blinking light. If there was a camera, the owner might know that I drink on the job, and that I steal a fair amount. Or they might know about the portal that opens every day at 3 a.m. But that guy doesn't know anything, trust me. So yeah, maybe it's a portal to the past. They did that on Star Trek a couple of times, or the future. Or an alternate dimension where I graduated on time and didn't run out of financial aid and got a job with health insurance and didn't have to pull my own bad molar with a pair of needle-nose pliers. Aisle 3, with the motorist emergency kit. I've heard that the flares are old and greasy and they don't light. I didn't steal any of those. But there's no way to know. I got brave and threw a loaf of Wonder Bread, aisle 1, 800% markup of what it should cost, right above the weird brand of peanut butter with the thick furry dust on its orange lid, into a portal a couple of nights ago. And you know, this story would be better if the portal spit out 20 perfect pieces of toast, or an angel with a trumpet, or just a snarky note that said, "This universe is gluten-free." It'd be just tits if that portal barfed out Winston Duke in his M'Baku costume, who looked at me and said, "This offering of bread pleases me, sexually." It'd be great if I heard cheers, or screams, or mariachi music from the other side, but nothing happened. There was Wonder Bread, and then there was none. And it just about figures that the only interesting thing that's happened to me in months is still boring, unprovable, meaningless. 3 a.m. at a gas station is the weirdest blend of torporous boredom and utter terror. The fluorescent lights buzz constantly and make me look like a zombie from one of those movies where the zombies aren't even hot. It fucks up my sleep cycle. Thank you, vodka ices. There's nobody around, not even cars out on the street. I have to keep the door closed and locked from the inside, and everyone who comes to my bulletproof window hole wants 10 bucks in gas, or a pack of cigarettes, or to tell me their fucking life story while I can't possibly get away. I'm not convinced that glass is bulletproof. Probably it's nothing proof. And that's what it's been like until tonight. This guy comes to the glass and starts whispering at me through the little speaker hole. Let me tell you, it is never good news in the service industry when a guy starts whispering. The best case scenario is some light sexual harassment. Mostly it's the heavy kind, or a threat, or both. So there's nowhere to go, not really. I can wander around inside the store, but the whole front of the place is glass, so it's just like I'm giving a better look at me. Once I did that, and the guy took the opportunity to make sure I got a better look at him. Got it. So the whisperer starts up, and I don't look at him. I look at nothing. I look at the Take 5 bars, aisle 2 with the rest of the candy straight across from the pregnancy tests. I don't look at the clock because I don't need to, because the portal opens. The guy must see it because I don't know what else would shut him the fuck up. Certainly not the cops who told me in my first week not to bother them unless I was being robbed. We both shut the fuck up. I walk toward the glowing rim of the thing and surface like water in a vaporwave video. I haven't had my icy treat yet, but I feel unsteady on my feet. Come on, something inside the portal says. I step back. Come on. It sounds like a girl I used to know. She was the one who had this job before me. We worked in the same lab at the university, but never at the same time. I only saw her coming and going. Her backpack was too heavy and her shoes were worn out. She dropped out one day, and then this job opened up. I never thought about it. I walk closer down aisle 4. Mars and motor oil, M&Ms and funnels too small for the universe to leak through. I lean forward without moving my feet and yell back into the portal. Are things better on that side? Silence for a second, and then an answer. Not from the portal, but from the whisperer at the window. You're too pretty to. I jump. Thank you. You can find me on Twitter at MegElison, also at megelison.com, and on Patreon, again, under MegElison. Thank you.
So the third book in her trilogy is here tonight if you want to buy it before everybody else gets access to it, just as an FYI. So again, check out the merch table. All right, I was instructed to give a beat. Paul, is this a beat?
That was at the beginning of the show.
Oh, oops. Did I do it?
No.
Cool.
Killing it.
Next up, we have Seth Katz. I'm going to talk real slow so Seth has time to move from the back of the room. Seth Katz is an artist and writer based in San Francisco. He writes poetry, essays, articles, short stories, but mostly zines, again, which you can buy at our merch table. He writes about politics, feminism, gender, identity, and places they overlap. Please give it up for Seth.
My gender dysphoria and height dysphoria showing. Thank you. for Meg and Lauren for making this look really easy. I'm not good at public speaking. So happy Intergalactic Trans Day of Visibility to everybody. I'm going to read 4 short poems and a little bit of a short story that are about being trans. Also, my hand shake.
You're perfect. You're perfect.
Thank you. You have to say that because it's Trans Day of Visibility. I don't make the rules.
Just gotta follow.
There is a mantra, a story I know too well, reverberated within my community, that of our curse. It begins with a couple. They are old, maybe barren, but together they are a prayer. Our merciful God, like any other unnamed con artist, is quick to answer. You ask me for a child? Yes, they cry, we will give anything. I can give you a son, he bellows, but I will need something in exchange. Anything, they cry, we will give anything. Then I will give you your son, but you must be patient and trust in my ways. Yes, they cry, we will give anything. And his voice cracks through the sky. There's no need to repeat yourself, guys, I can hear you, I fucking got this one. And so the wife became pregnant and they thanked their generous God or trick of the light, but soon they forgot about him and their deal because like most of us, we only think of God when we're asking for something. When the wife gave birth, the doctor announced it was to a beautiful baby girl, and the old couple was so happy they didn't worry about having a son. Besides maybe a few times when they realized it might be easier than having a little girl in this world. The healthy young girl grew into a beautiful young woman, and the old couple loved her endlessly and gave her everything in this world. But it didn't take long for the vengeful God to return for his end of the bargain. Like many gods of old, for some reason they have a weird fucking thing for little girls. I'm looking at you Greeks. Their trickster God came in the night and took his prize. But the old couple wouldn't be empty-handed because their God left a double-edged gift in return as promised. So the next one is about a Greek myth about basically Poseidon, like a lot of the Greek gods, had a illicit affair with a mortal girl, and when she basically asked him for something in return, and she said, I've always felt like a man, can you make me into one? And he granted her that, and she became the strongest warrior in all the land, and became a king. And Zeus got jealous and sent down a bunch of centaurs to battle him now. And finally one of the centaurs beat him in battle, and he turned into a bird of some kind. Maybe I should know this more before I talk about it, but so here's the poem. It's called Ovid Has Spoken Kindly of You. Ode to mighty sinews, strown by vast oceans to be reborn, of the strongest men earth had bred once the fairest daughter. And you, as Latrius, spitting in my face, clotting dirt in my wounds again and again. Cenis, you bitch, must I tolerate you? You will always be Cenis to me. Return your distaff and basket of wool and leave the fighting to men. Crush me in the shattering hail of heavy pine trunks, and I will come again as I have before. Woo! They asked me before if I was reading something sad or happy so they could like get the order right, and I was like,
That is the correct answer.
What makes a man? When we weigh boyhood in split lips and bloody knuckles, is a man his conquest, his chromosomes, tears he didn't cry, words he wouldn't speak, is it measured in inches? What makes a girl? Is a lady's worth calculated in the angles of her curves, of her hips and smile, how soft and smooth her rosy cheeks? Is she but her womb or her wounds? Sometimes there is poetry, entire psalms and the sounds of silence, and other times the inflections of my own voice are deafening. Some days I can build a home inside my body, and other days it's as if Judas himself has kissed my flesh. And then, depending on how much time I have left, I'm just going to read a little bit. Every trans person's birthday is today, so sweet birthday, baby. Oh, happy birthday! So, I'm just gonna read this. This is a short story that I'm working on. The lights were hung along the streets, and it felt like our San Francisco neighborhood was a blur in Technicolor. It shouldn't have taken psychedelia to recognize that this was how the Strip once was for everyone, but now it usually just reminds me of all the old white hippies who speak so dearly of it, and it's crying back in the 70s, now just an old sold-out yuppie. This was my second December at the bookstore, which meant my second birthday, second Christmas, second Thanksgiving, and second New Year's. But when I was hired 2 years ago, things were different. With time, I've gotten better at preparing myself for the suffering that is retail amidst the holidays, but beyond that, my face and skin and voice were softer then, without the not-so-gentle touch of outside intervention. I was so juvenile in my boyhood, I was practically an adolescent girl. Many would even argue that I was, but I wasn't, and I'm not. I was somewhat familiar with the street before I got the job, having lived in the city since I left home at 17, but I wasn't nearly as intimate as those who were around in its prime back in the summer of love. Now it was depressing as another tourist trap within a greater context of an entire city that also acted as one. Even in the sparse amount of time I spent in the area, the turnover was clear. The street was in an almost constant state of reincarnation, purging itself of any venue more than a few years old and filling the void with new and trendier spots, careful not to leave any storefront empty too long as the rent would reflect it. Tourists and old hippies both tend to overthink the street. It's like they're overcompensating for its gentrification. I know I can't say much since I wasn't around to witness the glory of the 60s or 70s or even 80s, so I guess I can't blame them for holding on. But now it's pretty much a glorified strip mall with some history. Tourists come in and shop and ask me recommendations for a cute and genuine hate spot. Call me cynical, but there's not really much left. Not to mention that no matter where you go, I can promise you that the Grateful Dead aren't going to bust through the door and play Friend of the Devil. But the bookstore has stood long before me against the test of rent and management and time. When I interviewed, my then managers didn't even press about my name and gender, almost illegible, but definitely distinct from any legal paperwork. I recall having a line prepared just in case it was brought up, which it usually was. Just weeks prior, a first date had taken one look at me and asked my real name. I suppose it was difficult to understand why my feminine features didn't match my masculine title. Long after the failed evening out, I realized I should have fought back and stood up for my manhood. I should have told them that it was my given name and that I gave it to myself. Shakespeare said some pretty interesting things about names. I definitely fit my name better now than I did 2 years ago, slowly growing into it like big boy pants. But after what seemed like endless sheets of paperwork and several trips to court, which sourly reminded me of a fractured adolescence, the name finally belonged to me in the eyes of the state. For a long time, I didn't even care about the legalities of changing it. If people wanted to know my name, then they would have to take my word for it. If they didn't trust my word, then they didn't deserve the intimacy of knowing it. But in our advanced dystopia of the 21st century, it isn't nearly that simple. Like other self-titled adults, I own a credit card, have a social security number, and other little rectangles that seem to freely hand out my past. It was a whole other bureaucratic dance with the devil to change them. But the ultimate push came from the late-night run to Burger King. When the individual at checkout refused to sell me the meal I was already feeling guilty about buying because they were so sure that I'd stolen the credit card. How could I have a woman's credit card but a man's ID? In my frustration and hunger, I wanted to out myself in hopes of teaching them a lesson, but I realized that this wasn't an after-school special, and most likely no lesson would be learned. Someone might even overhear me and teach me one. Now there is a masculine consistency across all planes: my driver license, bank documents, social security, and rougher face. Even still, strangers only gets it right about half the time. It's not their fault. I understand that I'm short and conditioned with effeminate mannerisms. The bookstore, being glorified retail, requires a generous amount of customer service. I deal with up to 100 strangers a day, recommending them books I've never read, bagging up hardcover new releases I won't be able to afford until they're available at the public library. But before my body started shifting in symbiosis with my change in name, I was seen as the girl with the boy's name. Before I gave myself the name, I had another. If I tell someone or they find out about it now, they always tell me that they couldn't imagine me with such a name. The softened syllables, like I had left my new name in water for too long. But they don't realize that the name once fit me snugly. It didn't require any convincing, growing into, or paperwork. It was just there, always, and when I was growing up, I never questioned it, at least not consciously. When I was too young to understand, I would swim alongside my cousins in nothing but shorts. While they bonded over Boy Scouts, I envied their freedom. The camaraderie was nice, but not what was truly enticing. Their sense of adventure was being fanned from every direction while I was stuck with cooties. Of course, looking back, I realized it was a flaw in society and not the fault of any particular young man, including myself. The many girls in their youth wanted what society gifted their male classmates without even fully recognizing that these boys had won the world's favor. But it was more than that. I didn't want to join the boys' club for the freedom or the power. I was just a boy and didn't understand why others didn't see it. When I was a child, my dad would call me all sorts of nicknames. I was his princess, his Bella, and his brown-eyed girl. When I was slightly less of a child, I got one of them tattooed on me in furls of cursive. A year or so passed and I realized that although it was sweet, it was also a permanent and frivolous tie to a past I no longer embodied. When I got it covered up, the tattoo artist crowded around me, wondering why I was getting it covered up, and even more so, why I had it in the first place. The vulnerability of a tattoo needle carving into my back helped to explain my situation to them. They seemed confused, but also as if my butchy appearance made some newfound sense. I told them about the name on my ID no longer belonged to me, and of course they asked me about my new name. I told them and they seemed amused, like they were living an absurdist story that never actually wanted to vicariously live through. Of all of the concerns passing through my mind during the appointment, one was louder than the rest. I was inking over a childhood memory, sentimental and entrusted to me by my father. In the end, I went through with it and told the name, and the old name was long buried beneath the black and gray of roses and other flash pieces. But even though it's gone and I'm no longer my father's daughter, that doesn't mean I won't always be his child. Most people go through one puberty and some through two. My first was that of a so-called girl becoming a so-called woman, my second being more complex and aided by medical professionals. Like many as an early adolescent, I both enjoyed It's because I'm talking about puberty. Like many, as an early adolescent, I both enjoyed and detested exploring my identity without even realizing I was doing so. It took years of therapy later in life to even recognize that I was showing signs as early as 9. My bedroom walls draped with posters of boy bands seemed so normal along my childhood peers, yet in reality it was so different. I didn't imagine myself dating these men, but I wanted to be them. But there was even stronger signs that I, of course, didn't pick up on. Long suppressed but recently discovered, I recall falling in love with strangers in chat rooms on the internet. My teachers and parents taught me well never to reveal my identity to anyone online. This was a poorly conducted excuse to recreate myself. I'll tell these people everything about me, my fears, my taste in music, my dreams, but I wasn't the girl with the soft name. That was the birth of my name, my given name, the name I gave to myself for the sake of self-preservation. I hid this name and aspects of myself so well that even I soon forgot, tucked away at least until I was out of the range of my first adolescence, and difficult enough as it is.
No. Is there more? Give us more.
I'm just gonna, okay. The first couple months of my time at the bookstore was spent being viewed as some sort of butch hybrid. The feminine energy of the store, mostly inhibited by women and other femmes, accepted by my minimal knowledge of astrology and tarot. How I met Lauren.
He's not wrong.
I was practically a lesbian, despite my occasional attraction to men, my identity as man, and the fact that I wasn't a lesbian. But my love of sapphic literature, buzzed hair, and button-ups helped solidify myself at the store. Even as my voice sunk into my diaphragm and the fuzz on my body grew coarse, I could sense it difficult for my peers to shift their perspective of me. To this day, I'm still frequently asked for spare tampons. But back when I applied for the job, I didn't have any intentions or expectations. I was seeking what my fellow recent graduates were also searching for, a semi-decent job to provide barely enough income to cover my overpriced city rent. I didn't expect anything more as I prayed for nothing less. I didn't want to move back in with my parents soon after telling them of my name, but I was happily surprised to realize, of course, I'd be making minimum wage at a shop. It would also provide me health insurance. I never had such luxury before. I took advantage of the opportunity immediately and soon began a weekly ritual of injections. It was incredible peering into 100 milligrams of bile of what the world would see as the essence of man. There are so many different ways to be a boy, and yet the world insists that they all require this one constant. If not natural, store-bought was the second best. And although it wouldn't begin to show for some time, I at least knew the face and voice and figure would soon reflect me. I think so.
Where else can we find the rest of your work? Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at anarcho_loser. And my website is sethcatz.org.
Thank you so much, Seth. I was instructed how to use the microphone, and I forgot.
I believe in you.
And I don't believe in me. Like, Is this doing it? You know, whatever. Okay. Our next reader is Rowan DaCosta. Rowan DaCosta is a multidisciplinary artist from the city of Chicago, working primarily through photography, writing, and song. Rowan explores complex dilemmas and frequencies found in lovers and families and ecosystems and in places. His books of photography, poetry, and song, Edge of Fruitvale, which is for sale right over there, was published by Nomadic Press in April 2018 and has been nominated for a California Book Award, a Pushcart Prize, and the CLNP Firecracker Award. His photography has been featured in the Flight Deck Gallery as a solo exhibition titled Ordinary People, and at Root Division Gallery as part of a group exhibition titled Let Me Be a Witness. In 2018, he was awarded the Individual Artist Funding Grant by the City of Oakland for a show titled Trapped Trauma Transformation, an intersectional inquiry into the trappings of systemic oppression and, I can't read my own writing, and the means of resistance, which I think is going on right now. Rowan, can you,
we have an opening April 21st. We also have an art talk earlier than that, April 14th.
Okay, April 14th there's an art talk, and then April 21st is the opening of the show.
Easter Sunday.
Okay, Easter Sunday, so everybody make sure you go and do that. Rowan, would you like to come up here and read for us? Give it up for Rowan.
Thank you to Cliterary Salon for having me here. And Seth, I love your jacket wherever you are. It's rare I need to adjust it upward. Especially after you. It's weird. So I was told I was like given a good amount of time to be up here. I'm planning to read a little bit longer than I usually would, just because I like the vibe. I'm cozy in here. And so I hope you like me. Lauren, you can just throw something at me. Just be merciful. I moved out here about 6 years ago from Chicago. I ended up in the Fruitvale neighborhood. And so, yeah, this one is called Fruitvale Is. I know a place held together by a level stretch of road, 2 expressways, and a perfect myth, where the houses are pastels, broken Easter egg shells, scattered about the chewed up hills. I know a dog named Bunny that gets loose and chases pigeons on the downward slope of Manzanita. I know a woman named Jackie with a voice like a secretive canary. She hobbles over fissured slabs through the murdered doves with a light in her heart and Jesus across the chest. Fruitvale is on fire, like that car melted in half, clothes spilling out of the back of an exit wound. Like every hunk of metal, every gold-toothed grin, like that temple riveted on high, just briefly tanned in a tangerine syrup. At the breaks in conversation, the bark hums a thing soothing, sings a note familiar, and wails a tale wretched. At the top of one hill live 3 wise men, pacing well into the evening. A witch whose cauldron bubbles over, the finest solvent for miles and miles. I know a neighbor with an electric chair in her living room. I know a food truck, like a medic, like an answer, like a second chance. I know a woman who, whenever a seam came loose, she made it a rope to tie this place together even tighter. I even know baristas quite like Paul Revere who tell me the skittish are coming. But Fruitvale is on fire, folks. Just who is gonna put us out? I just want to say once again, happy Trans Visibility Day. Give it up one more time. Has anyone heard Jay-Z's last album, 444? Yeah. All right, so this one's called Beast Mode Moonlight, which is like a remix of Jay-Z's Moonlight. This is a lonely land. It's not here for you to use. This ain't the same fucking town. I don't know who is who. We in the same fucking tent. The rent is too high to move. This was a lonely land. We ain't seeing nothing new. Dead broken, we still paying bills? Still? After all they done stole, for real? After what they did to our Bobby Seale? Don't these families matter, Jaleel? That's real talk when they debo your taxes, give your grandmama's chains and run off with your blackness. They slept on you while you slept on a mattress on San Pablo Ave. Man, that shit is backwards. That shit ain't right. Twitter is cool, but that shit ain't life. Brad ain't this tight. But we got leaders in droves, not talking Libby though. We grow and we groom them in our city though. Please don't talk about funds that you ain't never gonna use. Y'all always tell on yourself. I'm just so fucking confused. Y'all stuck in la la land. Even when you win, you gon' lose. Child, this is a Panther land. Y'all out here looking like food. All right, so just living out here in Oakland, if you live in any city with any kind of vibe or culture, if you walk around, you can hear a lot of crazy things, they might stick with you, they might not, but in downtown Oakland and just all over Oakland, I done heard some crazy shit. And so this one is called Oakland Overheard, and I'm just gonna read out to you quotes. And then I'll tell you who it's by. Hey, Doc, why you stop riding my bus? I thought we was friends. We really had something. Now you done messed it all up. What'd you do? Go buy a car or something? No, now you walking places. You take care now. You better be on my bus the next time I see you. That's an AC transit driver, Route 62. You fucking on these raggedy bitches. Why the fuck is that bitch's clothes in your car? It's an argument on East 27th in Grande Vista, where I used to live. I apologize for this next one. I'm gonna fill out this job application. I'm gonna come back with the Desert Eagle, be like, pow! Nigga gonna be like, my face! I think I'm gonna work night shifts. I can't do day shifts. I can take the 57 up there, it's a security gig. I called up there the other day, a bitch answered the phone and said they hiring. But I think she got excited. She just wants some new dick. I'm gonna apply though. Yo, that was a teenager on the NL. Kids these days, man. The nigga expected me to sit there and be sober. That's a real Bay Area shit. I can't be sober. That's why I'm irritated. That's a young man on the 20. All these are bus. I took the bus a lot. I need black dick. I need black love. That's a young woman at Luca's Tap Room downtown. Seems like the right place for that. The same people that's in them tents is the same people that made Oakland. The Oakland OG. Black power? This world ain't even ready for black dignity. Let's see. Alright, so I'm gonna read a couple more real quick. This one is a little bit of a longer one, so please bear with me. Everyone feeling good? Yeah. So I used to clean homes and offices and apartments, mostly in San Francisco. This one's called Hermes. It was documented that from early 2014 to the middle of 2015, I had cleaned 445 apartments, homes, and offices in the Bay Area, primarily in the city of San Francisco. I filled an Olympia bag with method cleaning products, a bunch of rags, and a vacuum named Mighty Mite. And I took it with me everywhere, rain or shine. From Fruitvale, I took the 62, the 14, the 20, the 21, the BART, the Muni, the 30, the 45, the 5, the 47, the 49. I wore a black hoodie with Johnsonville track printed on it in gold. I do not know where Johnsonville is. Also printed on it in gold was Hermes' winged foot. I didn't know what sort of message I was delivering or who I was delivering it to as I dodged junkies in the Tenderloin, as I dodged Porsches in the marina, as I waited in the lobbies of the financial district, as I zigzagged through the Mission, as I tried not to look suspicious in Chinatown, as I pissed poor into the sunset, as I scaled Russian Hill lugging a 50-pound bag like Sisyphus onto the plateau of California Avenue, careful not to tumble all the way back down to Ellis. I would spend full days in the city. I became a connoisseur of everything in between. Anywhere I could kill time between jobs, naps on park benches, sunrises on front stoops, uncalled for meals at French restaurants, just me and my cleaning bag. I just needed a place to be. I've seen so many things. I saw a black woman without a home yelling to herself, pushing a stroller with 2 white baby dolls sitting in it. That was the saddest thing I ever saw. And that was after I walked past City Hall and saw a woman with a rubber tube tightened around her bicep, blood streaming down her arm. Once, I was walking across a busy street and a woman yelled to me, "Don't go over there! He over there taking a shit!" So I went over there. And he was. He was taking a shit in front of everyone, even the cops. I saw a man walking up Leavenworth holding a flower pot with his pants around his ankles. I saw a woman naked from head to toe and shivering right outside of Salesforce, and I walked right past her. I barely concealed cruel laughter when I walked through Powell Street BART station, seeing people balled up on the subway floor, serenaded by an acoustic cover of that Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes song, "I've had the time of..." You know the one, you know it. Fucking brutal. I remember thinking that it was peculiar for me, what with all my aspirations, to be showing up to scrub the living quarters of random strangers. I also remember noting how it didn't seem to faze them, like it wasn't out of the ordinary, like it was exactly where I belonged. I mean, they hired me, so, but I would spend afternoons cleaning toilets, then drag my cleaning bag up to the top of the Mark restaurant in the Mark Hopkins Hotel to listen to jazz music and hear my friends read poetry. I must have polished over 1,000 toilets in San Francisco. I cleaned for everyone, didn't matter who you were, techies, housewives, old cat ladies, politicians. I dusted around baggies of cocaine, stripper poles, a book titled Coping with a Large Penis. Coping. And refrigerator magnets on cars that read, "Save the date." Everyone in San Francisco was getting married. Literally no one I knew was getting married. I once cleaned a small apartment in the Mission and thumbed through red light lit poetry collections, give it up for red light lit, that were lying all over the place, and I told the client that some of my friends were featured in those books. The client told me that she knew my friends. She was the editor, and she sent me home with a few free copies, and that was that. The best was when I was given directions to find a key and I could clean while no one was home. These moments were like a meditation. I cleaned an apartment in the marina and took a Parliament out of the pack I found in a drawer. I ate a PB&J and smoked that Parliament while watching boats pass by on the water as the ocean breeze blew through an open window. Sometimes I truly enjoyed being able to view the city from angles that I could never afford to live in. I tell you, some of the clients were really a trip. I showed up to a place in Dolores Park and this couple immediately offered me a dab. Out of politeness, I took it. And boy, did I regret that. Have you ever seen cartoons where Daffy Duck or whoever tastes something like piping hot and the heat rises to their eyeballs? That was exactly what it was like, and only the heat was highness, and I was high as fuck. And this is when I noticed that the granite top island in their kitchen was covered end to end in beakers, pipettes, loop-de-loops, and all sorts of glassware that I could not readily identify. A full-blown chemistry set. It was like season 1 of Breaking Bad. I knew I had fucked up, but I kept on cleaning, because I'm a professional. Looking over my shoulder, paranoid, sure that this couple had set me up, and at any moment they were going to burst in, maybe wearing assless chaps, or they were recording me, or they were going to chop me up into little pieces and smoke me, maybe turn me into a wax, maybe dab me. Full circle. They seemed so nice, and they really were, and they sent me home with some smoke and well wishes. You know. Once I showed up to an apartment near Bush and Larkin, rang the bell, and no one answered, and so I sat in the hallway waiting for some sign from the client. And after about 15 minutes, I decided to leave. And outside, the building's property manager was waiting for me. He informed me that a tenant had called him and was worried that I was a criminal with unauthorized access to the building. Y'all know what kind of climate we live in right now. Don't call the police on me. I told the property manager what I was there to do, and he asked me to prove it. He asked to see the contents of my bag or he would have to call the police. I thought to myself, well, ain't this some shit? He about to feel stupid as hell. I'm in the Bay Area, hella stupid. When I unzipped this bag. As onlookers looked on, I got on one knee and exposed the contents of my bag for all of San Francisco to survey. I don't know if he felt hella stupid, but I left the situation still broke. One guy actually shouted, "Go back to Oakland." Like Oakland was Africa or something. I guess it may as well be Africa to some of the new San Francisco crowd. And yet still, these White Walkers threaten to cross the bridge. Shout out to Game of Thrones. It's coming. Winter is coming. I'd come home to Fruitvale's palm trees and sirens and dogs who mimic the sirens, loudspeakers, firecrackers, helicopters, and direct orders, lotto tickets and hummingbirds, and niggas getting cussed out, shouting matches on Grande Vista, burnout marks and shooting stars, and saxophones and gunshots and black folks boning, the whole shebang. So I got one last short one to just, ride off into the corner of the room with. All right. Sometimes I don't believe in eloquence. I don't believe that I could tell you what I ever meant. I hope to see you somewhere else below the heavens, and I want to take you by the hand and show you everything. I can, but if I can't, just allow me to say, I dreamt of your smile on my way back to the bay. I kept it up a mile high and tried to hold it in place. I guess everything gets heavy in time. Look, I just want you to remember me. Name, number, energy, until you see me again. I just want you to remember me, not just my name, but my energy, until we meet again. Thank you. You can find more of my work at that table on either, I'm a photographer, so this is a book of photography as well, rohandacosta.com or Nomadic Press, which is what is published by me. Yeah.
All right, whatever. Okay, so we're going to do an intermission, so everybody go to the bathroom, get some drinks, and then we'll be back shortly. Thank you so much. So our next reader is Maggie Takuda Hall. Again, correct. She is the author of the children's book, Also an Octopus, and is the host of the Drunk Safari podcast, which you all should get out your phones and subscribe to, and is a producer of Cliterary Salon. Her dog is objectively perfect. Maggie, too, right?
That's 100% true about my dog. I may have written that bio. I'm going to do something a little different, and I'm going to read a personal essay. Usually I read fiction. So, thank you all for your patience. I'm not a likely candidate for a baking hobby. I can't eat gluten. I'm married to a type 1 diabetic. In my culinary life, I've come to disregard recipes for being too bossy. So when I picked up baking, it didn't just feel sudden, it felt random. Stolen maybe, from a better woman, a woman with no dishes in her sink. First, it was chocolate cake. It was pretty, but too simple. So then came the macarons. Hundreds of them. Pale pastel treats topped with edible gold leaf or glitter. Beautiful and intricate. A worthy technical challenge to cut my teeth on. Too hard for most people, but not too hard for me. They're temperamental. That's what every recipe says. They crack, collapse, or prone to fail. Search results are dense with guides for troubleshooting your macaronage. I loved baking them immediately. Later, I'd realized the timing of this new obsession was no coincidence. We started fertility treatment in the summer of 2018. Tests made it clear my husband and I would not get pregnant naturally, ever. I wasn't surprised by the news. There were no obvious clues. It was just something I knew, the way that I knew I was in love or that a recipe calls for too much salt. What my mother calls women's intuition. So I didn't go into treatment with any misgivings. The fertility center we chose boasted special care for women of color, glowing Yelp reviews, and a doctor educated at both Harvard and Yale. It did not occur to me to enter this arrangement with my antenna up. And even now, if that feels naive, it doesn't feel foolish. We should be able to trust professionals with the care of our bodies. The first time I made macarons was shortly after a miscarriage. The macarons also failed. Sorry, I think that's really funny, but that's really hard. So sorry. I'd folded the batter too many times, added too much rose water, too much dye. They tasted like Satan's soapy butthole. That is also 100% true. They emerged from the oven shriveled and flat. No feet, as the ruffles on the bottom edge of the shells are called, a result gleaned from proper baking. I scraped the delicate pink remains into the trash. I was undaunted. Pregnancy is going to be hard for you, the doctor told me. A signal that I was being too precious, too fussy, a gentle rebuke. I mistook this for candor. In fact, it was the beginning of a process wrought with lies by omission, choices made on my behalf but not in my best interest. My chief concern that day, the day of our first consultation, was all the medication. It was a lot, but we plowed ahead anyway. Sure, this would be hard because, in fact, all pregnancies are hard. That was okay, I told myself. I can handle hard. Macarons are essentially a French meringue with almond flour and powdered sugar folded into them. Their reputation is that they're difficult, but I'd argue that they just require extra attention. Get to know your oven, learn if it runs hot. Fewer folds of your macaronage is better, but too few and they'll be misshapen. Don't bake on an especially humid day if you can help it. They're not hard so much as they're particular. I took a long and extreme list of medications leading into the surgery in which my eggs would be extracted. For the entire week leading into the procedure, I was in so much pain, like menstrual cramps, but more insistent, more acute, that my life was suddenly limited. No coffee, no sex, no alcohol, no exercise, no sudden movements. These were the rules. I was constantly nauseous, forever teetering on the edge of vomit. Is this normal? I'd ask. All bodies are different, the doctor would tell me. The subtext was, something is wrong with yours. Later, another doctor would name what actually happened to me, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, an injury caused by overmedication. My ovaries had been pushed into such artificial productivity that they could not bear the weight of their own fruit. My surgery date was bumped up because I was growing so many eggs. I was deeply uncomfortable, but I could handle that. I could handle that for a baby. No one has been more pleased by my new hobby than my friends, and also people who came to our last Cliterary Salon. They reap the benefit of my obsession, eyes closed as they chew, as if they have to ward away all else in order to fully reckon with such indulgence. This is the chief delight in baking macarons, the sharing. Pass the plate around, bear witness to joy. All that hard work, the piping, the filling, the decorating, is worth it in an instant. I felt it as soon as the medications wore off. Pain so acute it pushed a moan from my throat. I'd been sitting on our couch when I realized I needed to get to bed. I needed to get to bed that fucking instant, or I would never get there. The pain would only get worse and I would be stuck and there would be no respite. My husband was out walking the dog, and so I was alone as I staggered down our short hallway, moaning and weeping, my hand dragging along the wall for support, until I could finally lay myself down so I could writhe in pain in bed instead of on the floor. We called the doctor. More meds, he said. I took them. When I was 17, I had a spinal tap. I didn't cry. When I was 16, a car accident left me in a neck brace for 3 weeks, and when I cried, it was from shock, not from pain. In my college softball career, when I took an unexpected line drive directly to my face, I didn't cry. I laughed, which I'm told is a common reaction to the concussion I had just sustained. That is true. So when I say the pain the next day was worse, when I say it was the only time I've wept solely from pain, when I say it was the worst pain of my life, I mean it. It was ovarian torsion, which is when the ovary twists, cutting off blood flow from the body. I was put on an IV drip of painkillers again, just to manage. Is this normal? My husband asked. Some women just handle pain differently, the nurse replied. I know. Sorry, that is an absolute quote. Anyway, that subtext again. It wasn't hard for everyone. It was just hard for me. The problem was not the treatment. The problem was that I was weak. I was bedridden for 2 full weeks following that. Resentment may feel general, but in my experience, it's as precise as any recipe. Macarons require order. They create pleasure. They're delicate and lovely, like a baby's toes. I can take the care with them that was not taken with my body. The months of attempts with that doctor left my body raw and aching. It felt as though I'd been evicted from it and that it had been trashed in my absence. It wasn't the first time. That feeling of being violated in absentia was not new. I was back again 2 years earlier in my bed the morning after being sexually assaulted. I'd woken up with the kind of pounding hangover one expects after drinking to the point of sick. What I didn't expect was to see him, a trusted friend, but not a chosen sexual partner. He told me we'd hooked up and that he had, quote, seen everything I had to offer. I went to the bathroom after he left and found drops of the thin red blood of injury on the tissue. My body had been trashed, and I hadn't even been there while it happened. I wish I could say I put a stop to the treatment I was receiving from that doctor, but it wasn't me who raised the flag. It was my husband. He demanded we get a second opinion, which we did. Doctors are reluctant to ever critique each other. At first, she assumed we remembered things incorrectly. But my husband is a thorough note-taker, and slowly, over the course of the phone call, it became clear just how unnecessary all of this had been. Because the fertility issues lie with my husband's body and not with mine, medicating me at all had been a choice made to ease scheduling for the doctor's office. It in fact did more to hinder our chances than improve them. But having tightly scheduled cycles allows for more patients. More patients mean more money. It was terrible. And worst of all, it didn't need to be. My trust had been betrayed again. All that suffering was for nothing. Medical fuckery around fertility is undoubtedly more common than we realize, just as sexual assault is more common. We trust doctors, just as we trust men, historically the authority figures of our lives. We trust that it's worth it. I couldn't make a baby, so I made macarons is too simple. I was raped, and so I made macarons is also reduction to the point of absurdity. But with no precious tiny shoes to buy, no birth announcements to send, no baby bump to show, I post endless pictures of these confections, delicate and precise. That I would be drawn to macarons and baking with all its ladylike connotations makes a kind of sense. My body cannot seem to achieve its sole feminine purpose, but I can master this specifically femme art. It's a gentle hobby, interwoven with a dedication to aesthetic, to details that lend beauty. It is done with the express purpose of bringing others happiness, a gesture devoid of self, the ultimate maternal posture. Maybe I fancied myself the giving tree to a child who was never born. The best pain is the pain that creates something beautiful, pearls and cherry blossoms, childbirth. So what is there to do in the wake of pain that makes nothing? There was no result from my treatment, no baby with delicate toes and slowly blinking eyes. There is no bright side to rape. There is only me and a recipe that can be endlessly iterated. Me and the beauty I can control. The beauty I make for myself. Thanks. I'm bad at capitalism, but my publisher is not. So my children's book is not available for sale here, but it is in the independent bookstore of your choosing or on Amazon.com. You can also subscribe to my podcast, which is much more cheerful than the thing I just read you. It's called Drunk Safari. It's on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. Thanks.
I'm not okay, guys. All right, okay, and our final act tonight is Amani Sims. Woo! Who's a curator, alchemist, and author. She believes in the healing power of ritual, performance art, and the power of words. She's the curator of Kitchen Sessions, a running show series in collaboration with the Cultural District Forum for the Arts, Bellevue Art Museum, Seattle Art Museum, and the Theater off Jackson. Her goal, I'm bad at handwriting. Her goal is to continue to shift the societal narratives by providing artists of color with resources that empower and display their stories in public spaces all over the nation. Her book, Alive Heart, person over there, is available through Sibling Rivalry Press. When she isn't working, you can find her on her couch with a chilled glass of rosé. Please welcome Amani.
Rosé. Option. Can I use this stool or something?
Do you want this chair? Do you want that plant?
I just have to set my alcohol. Poets and their needs. All right. Hi. Thank you so much to Cliterary Salon for having me tonight. I'm super excited to bring you all my black ass poems. It's going to be an interesting close. Okay, so I believe in audience participation, okay? So I'm going to say, we gonna be all right, and you're going to say that back to me, so let's practice. We gonna be all right?
We gonna be all right.
Excellent. So anytime I say that, I'm just going to gesture, and you're just going to shout that back to me during this poem, yeah? Yeah. In 2015, Kendrick Lamar released All Right. It became an instant nigga anthem reanimating the souls of black folks tethered to American reality. 4 years later, lights up, scene. Femme crosses the street alone. And she is not in a dress, nor do corners shout, "Hey, Ma, what's up?" And expect her red-rimmed grin. She does not question sneakered step, each curve unapologetically black. Potion around her neck, cowering within herself, is reserved for bathtub sagas and champagne. She asks her therapist if survival feels this weighted in her chest for lack of joy's definition. Femme enters her favorite bar, orders Angel's Envy on the rocks, her ass spilling over bar stool as she sips, daydreams of unprovoked smiles echoing between her cheekbones. 72 degrees in Oakland, she asks, is this all right? Are we gonna be all right?
Are we gonna be all right?
Enter, stage left. Felicia wakes up happy. After 2 extra shifts, she is finally able to afford tickets to see the legend. Anita. Felicia finds spandex sequins to adorn her black girl body, all hotacious and subtle grandeur. She sings every song and dances in the aisle when Anita talks of sweet love, but Felicia ain't seen sweet or love in years, but she's still grinding for 70% checks and little sleep. Felicia knows an ache ain't never escaped ship or hole or stage or mouth or any form of mourn absent or black. See, she's smiling, woke. But this pain brings tears deep as oceans and fervent as time. There is no escape, Felicia. This is your burden. Birth a nation on your back and push toddlers to be men without metal, without guns. Birth a nation between your thighs and still come up with debt. Birth a nation still. See, Felicia discovered a body in her hollowed out chest. She dangled just above rib 13, a curse, raven black, gold eyes, interrupted face, sunken cheeks swallowed, the stretch of skin against bone. She was pretty once. Deep lapis gown trailed past her feet. Felicia's inhale rustles the edges, calls attention to her limp weight. She hasn't moved in months, just stares into the bottom of Felicia's gut. Wishes stomach butterfly full so she can dance once again. And even Marlon James knew ourselves would never be enough due to an act of self-preservation on the part of the British in teaching blacks servant English. No, this is not all right. Every time I open, a black girl, two pigtails scurries out. Beelines across tongue, leaving tobacco leaves in her wake. Tufts, heel-stuck cotton pad her run. Escape is all we know. Canvas shift catches wind. A pause as a curtsy falls, she is gone. Black as she won. Cut back to the bar. Felicia or I or pigtailed Adelaide survived an underworld turn 21. She gonna be all right. Black girl, she beautiful. She sit in a booth all by herself. Take up so much space the white man gaze like, she got nerve. And she does. So she sits and nods at the crunch of fried yam and sips brew as dark as she is, like confirmation her black ain't never too much space to swallow. See, she every bit glorious. Read unapologetic. She every bit afro against this white ass mistake of a man. She grace slick like oil. Sometimes it be Whitey's weakness. More money between her thighs than his privileged resistance, and read white man can't jump. Unless at the black grandmother's breast to suckle. So she rock her cleavage for them to see lack of price tag. Black girl beautifully alone sips brew as dark as she is, like confirmation her black ain't never gonna be too much space to swallow. Cause black girl be beautiful as the encased powder finish of cobalt on eyelids and let the witnesses come. She's the last sequin stitched under armpit for ultimate shimmer and let the witnesses come. She's the high note Beyonce sung through, yes, queen, lips, and let the witnesses come. She is the sliver of light kicked to corners with every stiletto click and let the witnesses come. And when she don't get bit by the dancing queen bug, what is left of her queerness? Just glitter, just cunt. Too many derogatory slurs to learn the sacred act of shedding skin on dance floor. She becomes the silence in bathroom lines and corners, disco lights and spinning silver. She is the moment we take for granted because all anyone wants to remember is the twirl and cocked wrist of red-stained lips hugged deliciously close to thumb worship. I forgot to say I'm a lot. So take care of yourselves as I give you all my black ass poems. Yeah, I'm a lot for my own goddamn self, so.
You're in the right show.
All right, I've got a couple more. The few things that I do, I guess, yes, is a lot of these poems came out of my body as I write a poem a day, and then I string them together when I have a show, and I'm like, oh, that looks good together. Oh, let's put that together. So all of this is lots of poems strung together in time to create some sort of time warp. Anyway, bass lines and sticky bodies reassure us all right is 3-letter words turned divinity. Some of us find God upside swing of split on metal pole applauded. Some of us discover holy disco light eyeshadow on dance floor forget rhythmic. Some of us Hail Mary's cunt with tongue so liquid we become God. Some of us break body under leather whip, split softness for nurture and trust. Some of us find worship or deity or tingle so profound to claim spirit. Worship or deity or tingle, some of us never find softness for nurture and trust. Under leather whip, split, some of us break body liquid, we become God. Cunt with tongue, so some of us Hail Mary's dance floor forget rhythmic. Disco lit eyeshadow on. Some of us discover holy on metal pole applauded, upside swing of split, and some of us, we find God. And she has the subtle chime of her hips, singing Cowrie Show Hollow, all fuck the police, and these lungs got more breath than every raven who ever sung death over a black body. She is reaper of sea, bringing diaspora bones back to the crossing, offering unbroken to Elegua to open gate back to salted waters where ancestors chose death before colonies of blood and stolen land. This is not home, so she harvests us back into womb. When Diddy speaks, I will be an artifact trapped behind glass. In the blackest, gayest museum they can find, because my life echoed a narrative that wanted white ears to know it was here and call it preservation. Femme magic, having been photographed, obtained, and exploited by male gaze, will stare back in defiance and dare anyone to erase the sun perched between my thighs. The sky catches my low hum rattling at moon once the sun burns out. Unhinged ribs will string themselves back together in the shape of an open mouth, devouring each star until rendered black. So yes, we gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right.
Awesome, thank you. All right. I'm gonna leave you on a happier note. Okay, sure. I guess this is happy-ish. I do this poem whenever I've like exhausted my emotional energy, and I'm like, well, this poem at least makes me laugh a little. This is 5 things I'm almost too embarrassed to admit. 1, I gave up on Prince Charming, the dragon, the good witch, her wand, and home long before I gave up on love. There is no land and no fairy tale, no myth large enough to hold my story to. I have only ever loved 2 women long enough to cradle them and hard enough for them to break my heart. Though I'll never be the same after carving space in my heart for them, I know the same is true of a fallen tree and a canoe. 3, I fart. In bed, when no one else is there. Blankets pulled all the way up to chin because this is the only place I stop worrying. I shake the improbable tales I spin and rest in the reaction of milk and cheese combined with macaroni on my body here. I do not apologize for the things my body wants. I only indulge. 4, I eat red vines in the same bed that I farted. I do this when I can't sleep, because the twisted red lines remind me of unpredictable turns in life's journey, and I can devour those hard roads without too much thought. 5, I'm a quintuple Aquarius, so I never, ever forget to check out, as it has always been easier to escape rather than to stay. Thank you all so much. I'm on all the socials. My book is here. I have a Patreon. If you just Google Imani Sims, it'll pop up at some point. Instagram at IRSims. I don't know.
Radar?
Oh, I'm a managing director for a company called Radar Productions, which is a QT POC literary arts organization. So holler at us.
Sorry, Lauren, I'm gonna let you finish. I just want to say in response to that, I just read an article today. Actually, I read this article a while ago, just saying that there's over 64,000 black women missing in the United States, and I just want to highlight how important that is, and I just want to, it's easy to be reactionary and understand that these are conversations that we're kind of inundated with in the Bay Area, but I just need everyone to just please give it up for black women and pray for them.
Thank you for interrupting me to say that, actually. Thank you all for coming to Cliterary Salon. That is the end of our show. Our next show will be April 26th at the Bindery, which I hope you will all come out for. It will actually be Meg Elison's book party. It's the third book in the World Millionaire series, which you should all read. See, okay, there we go. We already got one contender. Do the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Please support all of our artists by buying their stuff, and we hope to see you again. Thank you so much to all of our performers, and again to the Rick.